Heidi Totten, Marketing Director at Wisdom Window, and I would like to introduce you to Jamie Brown. Oh, downtown Jamie Brown. He's a hipster. He's going to do a dance for you in a little bit. Just wait.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We'll get him to do it.
No.
Anyway, we are so excited to have you join us today. We are going to be talking about how to build a community on Facebook. And Jamie came, I guess it was last week, and he did this training with me, and I was like, we've got to take this to our community. This is a really powerful concept, especially when we have been hearing for the last couple of years, content is king. So the way that he put it to me was content is king, but it takes a community to build a kingdom. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to, kind of be going back and forth and turning the time over to Jamie because he is a brilliant mind and a hipster. Anyway, and so I'm going to be turning the time over to Jamie. But Jamie, talk to me about this content versus community versus paid traffic and direct traffic like we talked about.
Well, the way I look at it is content is king. That's never going to change. The statement is the statement because of what it does. But if you don't have a kingdom in which you can speak to, what's the point of being king? So the way we look at things is in a way of you have to first have a community that is more than anything else, they are able to understand what you're saying. They are there and they follow you. You have your advocates. You have your people who just eat, sleep, and drink your company. And if you don't have that community, whatever you're going to say doesn't matter. It has no resonating factor. So people lose that sight that it takes people to hear what you're about to say.
Right. So if you're just posting a bunch of content out there and not getting the engagements, the likes, the clicks, the comments, then
you never know what's working.
Yeah, you don't know what's working. So let's use an example because you are familiar with Real Salt Lake, obviously, and you've worked with the team that took that
not me, Joseph Allen, but
he was part of the team. So when you look at like Real Salt Lake is a local to Utah soccer team. It's the soccer team. And a few years ago, 10 years ago, people hadn't really heard of Real Salt Lake. It was just, soccer, but it didn't have the following that it does now. No. And so in building a community, using that as an example, can you tell us, if you were to build a community like that, or even, let's talk about an entrepreneur. You can use me as a guinea pig. I'm a provider on Wisdom Window, and I have a program that balances business and homeschool. So if you're a homeschooler, you're running a business, it will help you to manage both at the same time. So in that case, obviously, my community would be homeschoolers who run a business, right? So if I am driving content or if I'm trying to build that community, what are some ideas that you have for me on how to create the content that will build that community?
Well, the first thing I look at, obviously, this is what we had talked about last week, but we have what we call a domino effect that we kind of focus purely on. Sorry, that last domino just does not look right.
More like a tombstone?
Tombstone.
Something? Yeah.
We'll label that one direct response or DR.
By direct response, what he's talking about is he's talking about paid traffic. So if you're doing pay-per-click ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, anything that requires money in order to bring traffic, that's direct response. Where content is focused on creating engagement and creating conversation, and then community is obviously building the community. So
direct response, if most companies nowadays especially look at this as your most important feature when it comes to your marketing budget. Direct response, that is literally bringing people to you that you can sell and convert, so to speak. Most people believe that content is king, so we'll start that here. But everyone forgets about this. Now, most people say that dominoes always fall this way. But if you look at the current scope of how we do things, everyone looks at dominoes falling this way, which just doesn't work. So in order for direct response to truly work, you must first have a community based on this. So where do we look? We look in, if you're looking at your example, Heidi, you look at the schools in the area. You look at neighborhoods. You focus on moms. You focus on anyone talking about education. Those are what we would say is your love groups. Not your love group, but that would be the community which you're trying to focus on.
Gotcha.
So, what do? Heidi, as a owner of the company, if you know what the market is that you have to target, how do you target that?
If I am targeting it, well, obviously I would start with my own homeschool groups that I belong to, and the online homeschool communities all over Facebook. There are homeschool communities, Yahoo groups, online there are homeschool communities. So, you know, I would start with those people because it's kind of like throwing a fishing net out and saying, okay, now who are the people in those communities with businesses?
Perfect. One of the things that we look at when it comes to Facebook or comes to social media is consistency and obviously continuity. A lot of people, when they focus on their social medias, they forget about the consistent part. So if you know what your community is and you know what you need to focus on, you know how to focus on it, the first thing you need to do is keep it consistent. This is how I'm going to do things. So you have to first schedule. How do you schedule that? What do you want to talk about? Who are you focusing on? You want to know, basically with the scheduling part of it, that's going to be when to post, times to post, what, you know, basically when people are going to be at that point when they're either on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is, you want to make sure you schedule around that. And focusing on what you would consider as your love groups.
Okay, so typically when you talk about a schedule, most of the homeschool moms I know homeschool in the morning. So they're not going to be on social media in the morning necessarily. That kind of 8 to 12 block is going to be taken up by, you know, the household chores, the curriculum, all of the things that they're doing so that they have their afternoons to be more organic. That's, you know, in a nutshell, it works differently for everybody, but I would say that the first piece to go out would be around noon, you know, that they're checking before lunch, after lunch, during lunch while their kids are eating.
Right. So then in your case, you probably want 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So 9 o'clock hit in the morning, 12 o'clock if you miss the morning, you get the afternoon, 5 o'clock, everyone's
What about later at night after kids are in bed?
They'll still revert back to this.
Okay.
The 5 o'clock generally will resonate on until this one hits.
Okay. So is there a certain time that you don't post after this time unless it's just, I mean, on your actual page, unless you're just engaging at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, before 8 a.m.
Okay.
Because no one's really going to be looking at that stuff at that point.
Okay. So in this, it's all about timing. You know, I mean, for my business, it's knowing your audience, knowing your community, and knowing when they're online.
But by knowing your community and building that community based around the advocates, things that you know, your focus group, you're now at that point where you can write the content.
Okay.
These are things like Facebook posts. Your Twitter posts. YouTube videos. And pictures.
So one of the things that I would recommend as a business coach is to go deep in one of these platforms. So instead of trying to attack all of them and go wide, go deep, focus on one, build your community there, and then bring in the other platforms as you see that they are needed.
Well, especially if you're small in your startup. So if you have, you know, obviously less than 1,000, 1,500 fans, obviously you want to focus on the one that gets the most eyeballs currently
on Facebook.
on Facebook.
Okay, awesome.
Twitter obviously is the next step that we want to focus on, because Twitter is more now, consistent, now. If you have events, things like that, you want to make sure that people are focused on when your event is, what your event is, hashtagging, so basically your message is getting spread. YouTube, if you have a lot of video content, you may be able to mirror both these.
Okay.
Instagram, if you have a lot of visual content.
Same with Pinterest.
Pinterest.
I mean, if your business isn't along the lines of sharing recipes, health,
But by
things
building,
like that.
your community, you're able to focus on where this will work most. And so you start getting the insights from, as you post and as you kind of just do trial and error, because let's call it for what it is, but social media is always going to be a trial and error business. It's always going to be trial and error marketing. You never know what's going to stick, what's going to go viral.
Yeah, because some weeks I noticed that there's like, there's a lot of engagement, and then really the next week it's completely dead, and I've basically tried to time it out so that it's the exact same thing. So is that something that Facebook just does?
Not as much Facebook does, but the thing that we talk about is there is engagement going on. There is talking going on. Most businesses will try to engage in that forcefully, but people are going to talk about you whether you know it or not. So the thing that you want to do is you want to try and bring that conversation to you.
Okay.
You invite the conversation. You don't try and force the conversation. So a lot of businesses will try and force feed a conversation, try and force feed a post, try and force feed their message, whereas the people don't want to be force fed anymore. They want to just feel like they're invited into the conversation. They want to feel like they can enjoy the conversation. They want to feel like if what they're going to say is going to make sense.
Okay.
So if it's forced, they don't care. And
Right.
so
give me an example of when you have seen something that's just forced versus inviting.
dealerships,
Oh, okay.
dealerships, the $199 a month on Facebook does not work. Does not work because people that just another billboard, it's another TV commercial, it's another radio commercial. And so a dealership that focuses on the community around them, so they know who their buyers are, they know what's going on in their community, they market that on Facebook. So that, for instance, if you take Brent Brown Toyota in Orem, they talk about education, they talk about their Easter basket option, they're going towards education, they'll put those on Facebook. They're talking about, in 1963, this is what happened with cars at that point in time. So they're giving educational facts. And then every so often they'll bring in their deal.
So it's almost everything outside of the actual offer.
Right.
So I was at a movie on Saturday night, and it was so funny. I mean, literally I laughed because the ad, and it was one of those, preview ads, was, hey, while you're waiting for the movie, get on your phone and buy a car. And I turned to my mom and I said, no way, they did not just say buy a car off your cell phone while you're waiting for a movie. Wrong audience, wrong, I mean, wow, that just blew my mind. And I thought, I don't know that I would ever go now to that dealer because it was just in my face.
Yeah.
I'm here to relax and enjoy a movie, not to buy a car off my cell phone.
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, these are all social platforms when people are already talking. If you try to force a message, it never works. You're not going to create an advocate, you're going to create an assassin. You don't want to do that. Okay. So through your neighborhood, let's take your business into account. So through your schools, through the neighborhoods, through the moms, through the education circles that you run through, you start to find out pretty quickly a message that starts to resonate with your group, with your love group, with your community, with your fans. With the schedule, you find out real quick what is working, and as you find these messages out, you find out what time frames are going on and what to focus on. You start finding engagement right here.
And what's more important for engagements? Likes, comments, shares, all of it?
All of it.
Okay, so you just want to
I prefer shares. I like shares because that is when people are realistically taking, like what you said resonated enough to them where they want to share it with their friends. And as people share, as people like, as people comment, your impressions go up because more people are seeing that on your Facebook thread. Because one of the pluses about Facebook's algorithm is any involvement you have within a post, it's going to automatically pop up on that person that liked your page or commented on it or shared it. It's going to pop up on their news feed, so all their friends see it, and all their friends see it, and all their friends.
Yeah, so if you have like a random radio station and you have stuff come up on your feed and it's somebody sharing from a random radio station, the impression is going to that random radio station's page, right? Okay.
And sometimes you'll find that some of your content might not be sticking with your community. Sometimes you'll find that some of your content might be a little bit boring. Sometimes you might find out that might be a little bit abrasive. So it's always kind of good to sometimes deviate from your true content, your true business plan. So if you take what we did last week, which was the Lisa, I think your Lisa took over.
Yeah, it was map the United States and the most popular girls' names on any particular year for every state.
What
And
was that? 14,000 impressions?
yeah, we ended up getting about 14,000 impressions just through kind of viral shares, and it was really cool to watch those numbers go up, and then to watch the follow-up engagement on the follow-up post. We posted about Chris Miles, who's one of our providers that teaches. He's the financial advocate for the entrepreneur, and he helps entrepreneurs put money back into their business. So to see the engagement that was on his post that we to help promote him, it was way up because of the previous post that we did. So if you're going to do a promotion, figure out a viral, post that may just interest your audience prior to posting out that promotion.
But see, over time, you start finding out that some of these things that you post have the ability to go viral. This
Right.
one went viral organic, which is always the key.
Mhm.
You have to pay for it. But sometimes you'll pay for a post, and you might be hoping to get 3,000 impressions. Next thing you know, you get 20,000 impressions, and that's a post well worth. But all of this drives from this.
Okay.
So your community involvement drives your content. Now, once you know what your message is and what you're spreading and what's resonating, what's working out, now you can go to direct response, because now you know what you're talking about. Now you know what people want to hear. Now you know the messages that people are understanding, what's resonating, what they emotionally are tied to.
Mhm.
What we call ourselves in our agency is we're emotional marketers. We thrive on emotion. We feed for emotion. We look for emotion because we want people to basically emotionally dedicate to your brand.
Mhm.
And if you don't know this and you don't know this will never work. And so you're going to try and bring traffic to your Facebook. You're going to try and bring traffic to your YouTube. But if you don't know what this wants and you don't know what your message is within this is just a fail. It'll never resonate. You might get people coming in, but your conversion rate's so low. Your
Right.
conversion rate won't ever be as high as if a company that knows their message, knows who they're marketing to, knows their love group. If you know those targets and you know your message is spot on, this will succeed. It'll never, ever go down. It will always go up. Take a look at Apple. Apple's a great example of that. Obviously, Apple was a little bit more grassroots. They were a little bit more in your face to start because they were pioneering a new age of technology. It was crazy. But over time, you got to a point where you either want Apple or you didn't. And so Apple knew what their love group was. They knew how to market to that group. They also know what their message is. They don't need to throw that message in your face. People know what Apple stands for. It's either a logo or it's a product.
Mhm.
You either know Apple through their logo or through the iPhone, iPad. That's how you know them. Nike's another good example. Nike was really aggressive. They were putting their shoes on everybody. They were doing everything grassroots. They were trying to get into this community to build that community, build that love group. Once they built that love group, people started saying what it was about Nike they liked, they were able to get content. Once that content was formed, they were able to direct response, TV, radio, billboards, you name it. They threw it out there. And now all of a sudden you have a situation where their brand turned into a logo. It turned into 3 words. Just do it.
Mhm.
This is it. That's all everyone knows Nike has now. The swoosh, just do it. That's it. And so once you are able to focus in on your advocates, you know your assassins. Everyone's always got an assassin. Everyone's always got someone that's going to tarnish your brand. But once you know this, it's going to topple to this part, which gives you the content that you can then build from your community, which then allows your direct response to take place.
Okay, awesome. So in this scenario, if you see that a post is doing well organically, it might be a previous post, then you boost it with an actual monetary campaign.
We did it with Brockett. We also did it with XL Sports, where we saw there was like 500, 600 organic impressions on a post for XL Sports.
Mm-hmm.
500. We boosted it. It then climbed to 5,000.
Okay, so looking for where you're getting engagement because I think people do it in reverse. They say, oh,
immediately boost the
I'm
post,
gonna
they don't
boost.
know if that message is going to stick.
Yeah.
But if you see something that is actually gaining traction,
Mm-hmm.
then you want to boost
Then you
that.
want to boost that.
Brockhead, their post last week had 600 impressions. Let's see, served is what Facebook's number is now. Served. We boosted that now 15,300 with 35 shares.
Okay, so how does this translate into your ROI? You know, and from everything that I've learned, it's social media is just social media. That's building your community, it's building your content. But how do you then, from this, bring it so that people are buying once they, awareness. Okay, got it. Awareness.
What perfect time to do awareness than Breast Cancer Awareness Month?
Oh, that's true.
Just kidding.
That's true.
But awareness, when people know about your company and they're searching for something, so let's say someone's looking, let's say a woman just, and I bring it up because they're up there right now, but let's say a woman's out the night in town, phone falls out of her, because a lot of girls are putting their phones in their bras and all that fun stuff, but let's say it falls out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It breaks. Well, now they need a new phone. So what has Apple done? Because they're so aware, it's either Apple or it's going to be a Samsung. Those two are at each other left and right. That's what people think. They think I'm either going to buy an Android or I'm going to buy an iPhone.
Right.
That's what I'm going to buy. So that part's taken care of. But now, let's say she's part of this community, and she's been seeing this, and she's been seeing this, and she's been seeing people using it, and has never had an issue. So what's she going to be thinking? Because of this, because the amount of impressions, because the Facebook page is constantly on her Facebook wall, she's starting to think now, wait, I might want to buy that because I don't want to lose my phone. And that's what they talk about. I've seen their messages. I've seen all this stuff. And so the impressions, the shares, the likes, she's been seeing this pop up on her news feed. So what's she going to think? Awareness. Yeah. So now she's going to say, not only am I going to buy a phone, but I want to put I want a pocket with my bra because that's where I put it when I go out. I want a pocket for that. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to buy that.
So how many impressions do you think? I mean, I've heard anywhere from 7 to 9 that people have to see your brand and see what you're doing before they actually start investigating what it is.
And anything. If you see a brand I mean, this is just the way I am personally, but if I see a brand at a tailgate party and I see a brand at the game itself on the big Megatron thing, whatever it is, and then I see the brand driving home from work, and I go on Facebook and I see it, I count 4 times. Okay, this thing has literally been in my face all day.
Right.
I want to find out what it is.
There's something to it.
If you see a TV spot, and then you find out that you see it on, they're sponsoring some big kids thing on the web, and then you notice that on your Facebook they were part of a community event, and now you're looking for a car and you're thinking, okay, well, I just saw them on TV, just saw something that popped up as a sponsored website, just saw them on my Facebook, just wrecked my car. Okay, those 4 things that took place, I know where to go.
So really, all
Sometimes
of your
word of mouth
marketing
helps
should
too.
be driven to your community.
Right, because word of mouth is a big deal. You know, whether it be one-on-one, me and you talking about something, or whether it be through a social community.
Right.
There is going to be chatter taking place. And they're all going to be talking about different things. They're all going to be talking about what I ate, where I ate, what I'm going to eat, where I'm going to go buy something, what shoes am I going to get, what TV I'm going to buy. And so they're always talking about your friends, you're always talking about something. This is where I was talking about don't force the conversation, engage the conversation. Once you get to a point where they're talking, if it comes into a certain product that your company offers, and they're talking about you have won this battle.
Okay.
But you don't know that unless you have this. And you don't know that unless this then converts to your content, which then converts to your direct response.
So usually people do it in this direction. They're trying to build their community, and instead they need to reverse it. So let's talk about 3 takeaways from this training, okay? Like, this is what I've gotten out of it. Number 1 is start with community. So the people that you are trying to reach with your product or with your service, start with the community. Where do they sleep? You know, where do they sleep? How often or how long do they sleep per night? Where do they go? What magazines do they read? Where do they shop? What keeps them up at night? What are they concerned about? You know, all of those things get into their head and start to build the community, and then turn around and say, all right, let's start talking about
Schedule your
those
posts
things.
around the community. Focus on different things that community's always talking about, so then you can tailor your message to that. And once you tailor the message, the times in which to send that out so people are seeing it. And then basically everything else that you're looking at, number one, you want to focus on one thing at first, and then as it goes and as it takes off, then you continue to spread your focus out. And then always focus on, shares, engagement, things like
Boosting
that.
the organic.
Likes are
Boosting
important.
things that are already,
Right.
people are already engaged.
Likes are important, but impressions in my book are more important, because that is likes, comments, shares, that's everything. So focus on the impressions, or what we call people served, because that's where you really see whether your message is really spreading.
So if you want to help people in business as well, if you know small business owners, then share their stuff. I mean, share it with your community as well, if that resonates
Be proud
for
of your
you.
brand.
Yeah.
Be proud of your brand.
Be proud of your brand. And in fact, I just heard a statistic that we get tired of our brand long before anyone even knows that our brand exists. So if you're constantly worried about, changing your colors or your logo, don't. Focus on building a community that resonates with your message.
Mike, who is one of our partners, he talks about nailing it the first time, because like you said, you'll get sick of it over time. But if you nail it right the first time, you never have to change it. Apple's never changed their brand. Nike never changed their brand. Adidas never changed their brand. They may refresh the marketing and maybe refresh the message. They may refresh their commercials, but they never change their brand. They never change the message. So if you nail it right the first time, and you nail your logo, you nail your whole brand and the messaging behind it, you should never have to change it. Refresh, sure, but change it, no.
Are you going to do a dance for us?
No.
Dang it.
No, I'm over it.
Oh, come on.
No.
Just one little move. All right. So we hope that this has helped you. Next week, we're going to go even a little bit deeper in our training. So we would love to have you join us and, watch for details on that. And again, Jamie Brown, Heidi Totten, and we are with Wisdom Window, which is an online platform that helps people to transform their life in business, health and fitness, transforming your thinking, personal development, education. So come check us out on Wisdom Window, and we'll see you next week.